Once Upon a Time is a show with many, many villains. The Evil Queen, Peter Pan, and Mother Gothel are just a few off the top of my head, but the character with the greatest level of evil and power has to be Fiona the Black Fairy. I mean, she sacrificed her own son's destiny in order to keep her dangerous abilities intact. But today, I'll explain how the Black Fairy and Pan's shadow are actually the same person. Hey everyone, and finally, I'm covering OUAT, my favorite TV show of all time. Many of you know from following me on Twitter that I've had several plans to make a video on Once Upon a Time over the past year, but other hot content has always gotten in the way until now. Let's get started, and spoilers for the first 6 seasons of Once Upon a Time. So the main villain of Season 6 is the Black Fairy, and the main villain of Season 3 is her former husband, Pan. The Black Fairy was banished to the Dark Realm after using the Shears of Destiny to cut their son, Rumplestiltskin's savior ties, leaving him with only his father. Rumple soon gets abandoned by both of them, however, as Pan gets drawn to Neverland and eventually stays there forever. And there's a clear correlation between the actions of the Black Fairy and Pan once they're captive in their respective lands. The Black Fairy spends her years capturing and grooming children to make up for her lost son, while Pan spends his years also recruiting children to Neverland. He does this through the shadow creature that lurks around Neverland, bringing children in and constantly monitoring the whole island. But have you ever wondered why this shadow is there to begin with? He's labeled as Pan's shadow, but he was there before Malcolm started coming, meaning he doesn't belong to Pan, it's more like Pan belongs to him. So I put out the idea that the shadow is none other than the Black Fairy, and that Neverland is located inside of the Dark Realm. This makes sense on several different levels, and has lots of evidence. The Black Fairy, though incredibly selfish, always did want to protect her son, Rumple, and in the Dark Realm, she makes up for this by nurturing other children in her own way. She's just trying to replace or even find Rumple himself, but she doesn't even know what he looks like. But notice how the majority of kids who end up in the Dark Realm are boys. It's because the Black Fairy did know that her child was male, and is therefore trying to find him and take him back with her. This fits perfectly with what the Shadow does. The children in Neverland are called the Lost Boys, as they're all male, and if the Shadow was the Black Fairy, that would make sense. The only girl we see in Neverland besides Tinkerbell and Tiger Lily is Wendy Darling, and she physically went there herself to rescue Bellfire. In fact, Wendy was in Neverland previously when the Shadow actually took her there, but it mysteriously brought her back to London because it wanted to take one of her brothers instead. Clear evidence that both the Black Fairy and the Shadow are only after boys to make up for the loss of Rumple. Something to prove that the two characters actually could be the same person is the fact that we know both characters can shapeshift and change their appearance at will. I think this is more important with the Shadow, as we see him turn into Belle, meaning he doesn't have to stay in shadow form. He isn't able to hold it very long, as once Regina comes he immediately loses the facade, but even that seems very similar to how the Black Fairy is trapped in the Dark Realm. Like the Shadow, she voyages to other realms to seek out children, but is always forced to return within a certain time period. The Neverland Shadow is the Black Fairy in disguise. But the obvious question is, why would she change her form while in the Dark Realm? Why would she become a shadow instead of keeping her true form? I don't think this was a choice the Black Fairy made, rather I think this was part of her banishment to the Dark Realm. Notice how it's always nighttime in Neverland, and it would make total sense if getting sent to the Dark Realm meant losing your true identity and becoming something that embodies the essence of darkness, shadows. I think it's also possible that the Black Fairy, or Shadow, is slowly getting her life drained as time goes on, and that the hourglass that reflects Pan's life also reflects hers, which is why the Shadow shows it to Pan the first time he gets to Neverland. The Shadow claims that the place where the hourglass resides, Skull Rock, was created when Pan agreed to stay in Neverland, but this could simply be the Black Fairy lying to try and save herself from dying away. It's much more likely that the hourglass represents the Shadow's life source, and because the Black Fairy rules over the whole realm, Pan and Neverland would die out if she died. I mean, Skull Rock isn't even in Neverland, it's an island off the coast, which proves that it's probably just another location in the Dark Realm, controlled by the Black Fairy/Shadow. Even more evidence for this theory is that although we see Neverland again in Season 6, we no longer see the Shadow there. It's because at this point, the Black Fairy's only focus is Gideon and Storybrooke, meaning she wouldn't be in Neverland capturing any more kids. I even think that Neverland could just be the intermediate between the Black Fairy's lair and the other realms, and that she picks and chooses which children to put in Neverland and which ones to take with her to her island. Maybe Neverland's just where children who the Black Fairy's grown tired of go. It's all pretty cool to think about. But what I'm almost certain of is that the Shadow is the Black Fairy and that Neverland's located in the Dark Realm. Skull Rock would obviously be in the Dark Realm too, and I even think that Pleasure Island and the Pandora's Box prison might be in there as well. They're all islands where time runs differently and it's always nighttime. And there are still questions to be answered, such as why the Black Fairy does take her true form when in her own lair, or how the Dark Realm came into existence in the first place, but those are for another video, hopefully coming in the next month. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications by clicking the bell, so you know when I upload more Once Upon a Time theories. And tell me what you guys think. Is the Shadow the Black Fairy? Let me know down in the comment section. See you later.